the legends.
There goes Freeman. There goes Freeman. Freeman is gone. It is intercepted in a diving grab. Kiko Alonso. Are you kidding me? Touchdown, LaMichael James.
The moments.
Intercepted. Intercepted. The next hand of the ball.
Marcus Mariota has won the Heisman.
These are great Ducks.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
This is Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Brought to you by Country Financial Insurance. Protect what matters. And by Pepsi and Bigfoot Beverages. Go Ducks. Drink Pepsi. Now let's talk some Oregon Ducks greats from the Country Financial Studios alongside Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, and Terry Johns. Here's Joey Mack.
Thank you, and welcome to episode 3 of Great Ducks. And we're actually going to add another member of our cast tonight. More on that in a moment. Thanks for joining us. We're featuring tight ends on the show tonight. The best tight ends to ever don the Oregon football uniform. And maybe the first thing that comes to mind for me is just how much that position has changed over the years. And I'm going to be honest, I had a hard time putting together my list just looking at the record book for Oregon because there's a lot of great guys that don't necessarily show up at the top of the receptions list. But, boy, they were great. Great Ducks. Before we introduce everybody, we got to introduce the newest member of our cast. From 1080 The Fan, joining us from our Portland affiliate, Dusty Herrera is with us tonight. Dusty, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. It's great to have you. Great to see you, my friend.
Yeah, no, it's great to see you guys. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen your guys' faces. Hair's a little bit longer. People maybe look a little bit disheveled, but look, Georgie still looks like $1 million right now. Look at it.
It's lighting.
And makeup. You guys are funny.
Yeah, just call me
guys,
Colonel Sanders and I answer.
That's right. Thanks for being here, everybody. It's going to be a fun show tonight. If you haven't joined us in the past, we're going to go through complete with highlights and have some fun telling some stories about all the great Ducks, the best to ever play the tight end position. All right, let's start with the voice of the Ducks, Jerry Allen. We begin our roundtable. The first Duck that we're highlighting tonight at the tight end spot, Jerry.
Wow, I don't know. Before I do that, every week I've wanted to thank these guys because every week we're going through all these stats and these numbers, and the reason we have them are guys like the guy I started with in sports information: Steve Hellier, Dave Williford, Jamie Clem, Chris Garrity, Pat Pearson, Todd Miles, Andy Mack, Greg Walker. Guys, they're the reason we have a lot of what we have to be able to talk about these guys because my memory's horrible. Okay, I just wanted to give them a shout out. They're done. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's go. Justin Peele? I just love me Justin Peele. Top 10 in receptions, 9th in that list in career, 8th overall in receptions, receiving yards 5th. He's on all the top lists. I mean, here you see Joey Harrington hitting deep because he gets behind people. He had good speed. When you needed a first down, he is a guy you could count on getting open, especially in a short field. Drafted in the NFL, 4th round of San Diego, first team all Pac-10 his senior year. How about this? Coaching with Philadelphia. He is the tight ends coach at Philadelphia. You know you're good if you end up in the pros as a coach of what position you used to play in college. Georgie, that's pretty high, huh?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it, Jerry. And again, just seeing some of these highlights and, you know, the play that sticks out to me and always will stick out to me is that miracle comeback Oregon had in Tempe against Arizona State where a couple of touchdowns down, he catches a touchdown late in the game to send it to overtime. Oregon ends up winning. You look at a guy like Justin Peele and again, always with a good tight end tends to be a couple of good quarterbacks or at least one. In this particular case, A.J. Feely, Joey Harrington. Terry, Justin Peele was such a big part of that offense, and obviously the success lasted all the way through the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, you're right, Georgie. That's the first thought that I had was down at Arizona State. Of course, you guys remember we watched a movie on the tarmac here in Eugene before we flew down here. Nobody got much sleep because there was lightning and we couldn't take off, so everybody was kind of sleepy. And then I watched some of the film today, and Joey Harrington, we're not going to lose on the sideline. It was all of that. But he and Justin Peele, Joey Harrington and Justin Peele, just how a receiver and a quarterback just get that rhythm. And Dusty, you're a receiver in college, so you kind of get that. You do get a rhythm with the quarterback, don't you?
No, absolutely. And, Justin Peele kind of came at that time where the offenses were changing in college football, and the tight end was becoming more and more of a go-to guy as that safety valve for the quarterback and not just a glorified offensive tackle. And, he was kind of the beneficiary of being that, oh my goodness, this guy is an athlete and we can use him in a variety of ways. And it was kind of that surge in the late 90s and into the early 2000s that you sat there and you said, these guys are weapons. They're not just, a guy where, hey, nobody's going to guard our two wide receivers so we can throw it to the tight end. And he always had that knack for, finding that open spot and that soft spot. I mean, that UCLA highlight that they showed right there, I mean, that kind of slow play and releasing across the middle, he had the ability just to be open, and that is the best thing that Joey Harrington could have ever asked for, is those kind of late flashes where his eyes are downfield and then boom, there goes Justin Peele running free.
Next up, Mike Jorgensen highlighting our next guy. Georgie, what do you think? Justin Peele's pretty tough to follow.
Yeah, he's pretty tough to follow, but I'm going big. I'm going big right off the bat since I didn't get to go first. I'm going with Ed Dixon. Love Ed Dixon. Oh, yeah. The way Ed Dixon played.
To save him for last.
No, we're not saving him for last. I got to go second, so I'm beating you guys. I'm beating you guys to it. Love Ed Dixon. The way that he played and the weapon that he was, not as only as a tight end, but oftentimes a dangerous receiver on the outside. That catch right there against Arizona that made it 31-30 and became an overtime classic down in Tucson when the fans had stormed the field before the game was over and Oregon was able to score with 6 seconds left. But he just made play after play in this Cal game, probably one of his best games of his career. When number 6 Cal came to Autzen Stadium, Ed Dixon shined. And he had a career that wasn't just 1 or 2 big years. He had a career all the way through that he played here. He had big years, year after year after year, number 1 or number 2 in a lot of the statistical categories. And, Terry, obviously he had a great Oregon career, but onto the NFL he went and has had a long one too.
Yeah, 3rd round pick, Baltimore Ravens in 2010. But you're right, 124 receptions. I mean, he's number 1 by a wide margin for tight ends with 103 is some other guy we'll talk about here in a minute, so we'll keep it a secret. But what he always impressed me with, and then watching some video again today, was how easy he made it look. It just didn't look difficult for him, and he's a big guy, and the way he moves, and as Dusty referred to earlier, it was kind of an era where these tight ends could do more than just block. I mean, they just became this offensive weapon, and he was just, the best statistically, at least right now, to ever play at Oregon. But, Dusty, you've seen plenty in your day.
No doubt about it. I mean, he was the guy that you could use inside, outside, vertically, go downfield. He was a big play receiver and, making it easy for no matter who his quarterback was on the field. Ed Dixon was a guy that was Mr. Reliable. And, that's the thing about a lot of the guys that we're going to be talking about, and Ed Dixon is a prime example of it, is their numbers won't be jaw-dropping in the college ranks, but they had long and very successful careers, and Ed Dixon is no different in that conversation.
I'm just going to jump in real quick, say, too, what he reminded me of was a big, wide receiver. I mean, he had great speed, quickness, and he had hands that were just incredible. We saw some highlight of some of the catches he made, not only in college, but in the NFL guy. He had wide receiver capabilities.
The amazing thing that I always think about with Ed Dixon is that he actually played defensive line for his freshman season. And then every season after that, he's, first in a single season in tight end receptions, second in a single season in tight end receptions, and 7th in a single season in tight end receptions on the list. That's in the top 10. I mean, that's amazing for a guy that came in, was playing defensive line, and then 3 of the best individual seasons, not just for tight ends, but for receivers. He's far and away deserving of being recognized. Quick timeout, guys. When we come back, we actually have our highlight of the week brought to you by Dairy Mart, and it is going to be let's just say a good moment for Ed Dixon. It's Great Ducks, episode 3. We're talking tight ends. We've got more coming up inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
Make a trip to the epicenter of Oregon wine country and visit Elizabeth Chambers. Our wines are crafted authentically in an old-world style in one of McMinnville's most historic working wineries. Let our staff lead you through a tasting of highly rated wines. Our newly renovated tasting room is chic and urban. It's no wonder people are talking about Elizabeth Chambers Cellar, now offering private seated tastings. Call us to find out more information or to make your reservation today. Elizabeth Chambers Cellar is open daily from 11 to 5. Find us online at elizabethchamberscellar.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
More Great Ducks talk comes after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Hundo P. Hundo P. Adjective. Short for being 100% sure or certain. As in, if we get a puppy, I'll Hundo P always walk it.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
Welcome back to episode 3 of Great Ducks. We're talking tight ends inside the Country Financial Studio today. I'm Joey Macca, Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns, Dusty Herrera joining us remotely. And guys, before we get to our next featured Great Duck, how about our Dairy Mart highlight of the week? We were talking about there's so many different big plays that you could choose from a tight end, but when I was asking around and polling, everybody, including myself, came to the same answer of the best tight end catch in Oregon football history. Time for the Dairy Mart highlight of the week. I think you might know that it's Ed Dixon.
Masoli lobs in zone. We are 1 point away from a tie. Eddie Dixon, with 6 seconds to go, makes the grab in the end zone. And some of those students who had surrounded the sideline, ready to storm the field, are an extra point away from maybe going back to watch overtime. 6 ticks left.
Brought to you by the Dairy Mart family, the local stop for fresh-to-go lunch, thirst-quenching drinks, and award-winning ice cream. Go Ducks. Thanks to Dairy Mart and the Lockmead family for sponsoring our highlight of the week. That was Brett Musburger on the call, Jerry, and I loved what he said. Look at all those students. They had to come back.
Georgie will remember that too. I'll never forget. It was so upsetting. We were at Arizona, and their Red Sea came out of the stands like ants coming to a picnic basket, surrounding that field, ready to come out and celebrate a victory. And then all of a sudden, Oregon came back, tied it, and then they all climbed back up. And it was like I was irritated and then excited. Georgie, that was fun, wasn't it?
It couldn't have played out any better, right? Just right to the edge of euphoria for that crowd and for those students. And then they go back with their tail between their legs up in the stands. It was a blast. And what an unbelievable game. It was really cool.
That's one of my favorite memories, and I love that we were able to play that one. All right, up next, as we continue to highlight some different great Ducks at the tight end spot, Terry Johns, who you got?
Well, I alluded to him a moment ago when we were talking about Ed Dixon. 103 career catches, second all-time in Oregon history as a tight end. Josh Wilcox, and I think one of our favorites, certainly personality-wise. And Dusty, you probably run into him up in the radio area up in Portland. But second all-time, 103 catches. He's first all-time in touchdown catches with 15 for the Ducks, 1,416 yards. Of course, 1995, his best year with 36 catches. But against Penn State, 11 catches in that 95 Rose Bowl, 135 yards and a touchdown. And I also remember the 1996 opener was the first game ever in NCAA Division I history that they had overtime. And they were down at Fresno State. Fresno State, you started at 25. Fresno State kicked a field goal, 3-point lead. Mike Bellotti says to Tony Graziani, fires a touchdown, 1st and 10. Right here, it comes right here, right down in the corner of the end zone as Josh Wilcox. And, I've always kind of looked at him as kind of a linebacker type, and I mean this as a compliment, a linebacker type guy playing tight end. Because you could see him playing linebacker at the same time, but he has soft hands and was a great tight end.
Dusty? That's one of the things about Wilcox is that we were talking about how there was that transformation of the tight end and they became the receiver. That was after Wilcox. He was a linebacker essentially playing that tight end position, but he came up with so many big plays and those celebrations like you see right there. That's what I remember Wilcox for. He was a wrestler. He's a professional wrestler after he got done with his days of playing pro ball. And there's nobody that embodies that more than Wilcox. And then the fact that he bleeds yellow and green, you knew it meant so much to him to score touchdowns, to make catches, and to block for the Ducks. And you mentioned that Rose Bowl game, 11 catches, 135 yards. That touchdown, though, it gave every Duck fan that hope because Penn State marches down, Kajana Carter gets that touchdown, and then Wilcox answers, right? And that's one of those ones where it's like there was that moment where you're like, okay, the Ducks got a chance in that Rose Bowl, and it was really cool to see the guy, from Junction City getting that one, Joey.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you mentioned being from Junction City. I mean, Jerry, I know that's a really cool thing that we always like to highlight, that he's an Oregonian, and it does mean a whole heck of a lot to him.
Yeah, it's a little extra, juice in a tank for me and, Georgie too, because, we're from the state of Oregon and it's a little extra special. I mean, the guys are really more special, but two things about Josh, he was so big. I think a lot of defenders looked at him and said, you can't be that fast. Oh, yeah, I am. And then the other part, I watched an interview with Jaya Figueres who said, you know what I remember about Josh Wilcox? The first guy was never going to bring him down. He was a bull. Yeah, no doubt about it. Georgie, he, being an in-state guy, it's just extra special.
Tough as nails, that guy was. That's all it's not all I remember. It's one of the things I remember the most is that guy was tough as nails. You got to love the shoulder pads. And obviously catching passes from the Italian stallion, Tony Graziani. I mean, that's what all goes together with this. But, Jerry, you know as well as I do, one of the most fond memories we'll all ever have is that game at Oregon State, 1994, before the Rose Bowl, and falling on his butt. You can't forget about that. That's one of the key plays of his career. I will never forget it. He's a good man. Love that guy. Yeah. You gotta love him.
He'll never forget it either. Somebody asked him, said, "You still remember that? Is it embarrassing?" He said, no, you're kidding me. I was just dog tired and sicker than a dog, and looked across the line, and I don't know who I was playing against, but he looked at me and said, "Wow, I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain."
By the way, happy birthday to Papa Wilcox today, Dave Wilcox.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's his birthday.
Well, it's Wilcox, boys, pretty good, I'll tell you. Whew.
Yeah,
they all are.
And great people too. I mean, that is the amazing part about it. They are awesome guys.
Yeah, we'll probably be talking about Dave Wilcox next week when we talk about linebackers.
Yeah.
All right, Dusty, you're up. Who's your tight end?
I've got, since you went with Wilcox, I'll go with the guy who was there at the very same time, and he was one of those guys that he was the receiving target, and it is Blake Spence. 91 catches, over 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns in his career. This guy was the receiver at the tight end position, and he kind of changed the game. And at 6'4", 250 pounds, he was a freak and a monster to take down. I'm going with Blake Spence on mine, Joey.
Jerry, I know you got some stories with him.
Well, the thing about him is his speed. I mean, he was another one of those guys. And Oregon had these guys that were not only big, but they had wide receiver speed. And you could see it. When he's out in the open field, he just took off. And he got away from cornerbacks, safeties. I don't remember who it was. He had the speed to run away from people. 26 consecutive games with a catch. That's how reliable he was. One of Danny O'Neill's and Graz's go-to guys. Georgie, he was Mr. Reliable.
He was. And again, I think one of the things I remember the most about him, Jerry, is the speed component of what he did. Is, you wouldn't think a guy like that could run that well. And yet he had speed to get away. He was a matchup nightmare for linebackers. And much like Ed Dixon, who was a 4'6" guy, sometimes he's been timed at 4'5'9" for the size. That's the way Blake Spence was too. Love the way the guy played for Danny O'Neill and Graz. Key component of the success of those teams at that point in time, and a lot of fun to watch, Jerry, frankly. I mean, he could just run, and you see it on some of these highlights here.
Yeah, Terry, I don't know if you remember watching him play. You remember that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was a 5th rounder, 1998, went to the New York Jets. Didn't last a long time, couple of years in the NFL, and I don't know if it was, injuries or whatever, but, as Dusty alluded to, kind of where Wilcox was the linebacker type tight end, then Blake made that transition to just a great athlete playing tight end. By the way, let me be Mr. Stat Guy here. 1997, 214 yards in a game against Utah. Still the Oregon record, only tight end to ever go over 200 yards receiving in a game.
Wow. That was the exact number that I was going to bring up. So no Mr. Stat Guy. That's just impressive, Terry. I mean, that's what I always think about is that game against Utah where he just went bananas. All right, quick timeout, guys. When we come back, highlighting some more of the great Ducks at the tight end position. I'm inside the Country Financial Studio. Everybody else joining us remotely. We've got more coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
What's it like to grow with the O? At OCCU, we support Duck fans each step of the way by educating our youth with Lucky Duck Savings, celebrating independence with Duck Debit Checking, and rewarding members with the Duck Credit Card. That's how Duck fans grow with OCCU. Learn how you can too at myoccu.org/ducks.
Ninkasi Brewing is proud to be an official partner of the Oregon Sports Network. Independently owned and brewed in Eugene since 2006, Ninkasi is thrilled to launch the GOAT Pack, the greatest of all time IPAs, their first all-can variety 12-pack featuring Total Domination Northwest IPA, Tricera Hops Double IPA, Prismatic Juicy IPA, and new and exclusive Juicy Domination Tropical IPA. Find it on shelves now. More information at ninkasibrewing.com.
You're listening to Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm place on a cool day.
Football
I want to be
stadium.
a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Talking tight ends on Great Ducks today. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns, Dusty Herrera joining us remotely. All right, guys, back to the voice of the Ducks. Jerry Allen highlighting our next great tight end.
Thanks, Joey. I'm going to go with a guy that I used to love to say his name whenever he made a play. Because I mean, Georgie Pratt remembers too. I'd say, "Oh, great catch or play, big Tim Day," because he was big. He redshirted his first year in 2001. Played all 13 games the next year. But, you know, he was plagued by injuries. But in spite of the fact that he was injured a lot, shoulder injury in 2003, he still started 11 games, played every game that year. 2004, a foot injury slowed him down. Still played in 11 games, started 9 games. And in 2005, 25 catches, a touchdown, played in all 12 games. In spite of the fact that he battled injuries, he's in the top 10 in most categories. The thing I'll remember him for, Georgie, is 2003 and a catch he made at Cal that gave Oregon a chance to come back and win a game they maybe shouldn't have won.
Oh, yeah, Jerry. I did see that that highlight just a little bit earlier this week where it was in the pouring rain. Oregon was struggling like you couldn't believe. And Kellen Clemens completed a pass to him, broke a tackle, and scored a touchdown. And, you know, that was so important in that game that recovered. It got them back because they were dead in the water and weren't going to win that game. But what I'm most amazed about with Tim Day, frankly, is not only his size, but how soft his hands were. And he was a primary target of, again, Kellen Clemens most of the time during his career. One of those guys that you just don't forget because of his size. He was just so unique compared to a lot of the other tight ends. And, Terry, we talked about Tim Day today. One of those big-bodied type of guys that sometimes guys just couldn't tackle.
Yeah, in fact, I had to look him up, Georgie, in his bio, 6'4", 265. And moving like that, like we're watching right now, it's just unbelievable. And then if you get a chance to Google him and go online and watch a YouTube video of his senior day video, he was thanking the strength and conditioning, thanking Red. I got him up to like 285 at one point. He goes, then I went to 240, then I was back to 250. Yeah, about 265. But, you know, another one of those tight ends that we've been talking about, the new era tight end, where it wasn't just blocking, certainly had the weight and the strength to do that, but just a great athlete at the tight end position, right, Dusty?
Absolutely. I mean, this highlight right here, there's somebody is wide open on the other side of the end zone doing jumping jacks, but when you have an athlete like Tim Day, you throw the ball to him in the red zone, and that's what he was. I mean, this guy was big, strong, and physical. I mean, these are Division I football players. That guy, number 42, he plays at Michigan, and he's dwarfed by Tim Day. He was a big body, and like Georgie said, the hands, the soft hands, especially in the end zone. I mean, he was a different breed of athlete, and it really was like at that time, you know, thanking Coach Rads. Imagine what he would be like now with the nutrition and the fact that these guys can get unlimited meals by the university and all of the, you know, advantages that the athletes have now. He was one of those guys that looked the part of being ahead of his time.
8 touchdown grabs in 04. That's number 2 on the all-time list for an individual season for Tim Day. Georgie, our next tight end.
I'm going to take Dante Rosario, a young man out of Dayton High School and in Oregon, an Oregonian, and he came in almost kind of as a multi-dimensional player, oftentimes lined up in the backfield as a fullback, but they moved him to tight end, big number 44. And again, he was just that freaky type of athlete, tremendous NFL career, but he was the type of guy you could line up. Jerry talked about it before we went on the air, at H-back, at tight end, at fullback, whatever you wanted to do with him. And he got better and better and better each year. Played again with Kellen Clemens. Kellen had a couple of good tight ends, Dante Rosario being one of them. 42 receptions in 2006, over 1,000 career yards, and really only played that tight end position a couple of years. What do Terry? What do you remember about Dante Rosario?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, you and Jerry, about what Oregonians mean to us. I mean, he's from a little town of Dayton, just west of Portland. I mean, I don't know. It wasn't 8-man football, I don't think, but just above that he was playing, and he was just a freak. I mean, could you imagine him playing at that level? But he came in and he was just so gifted that he could play multiple positions, and to end up third all-time tight end receptions with 94 is pretty remarkable. He could do it all. And then, he did it so quietly at Oregon. And as you mentioned, I mean, he was the 5th-round draft choice for the Carolina Panthers, had a long career with Carolina in the NFL and excelled, did great. Just, again, one of those new age athletes playing at tight end, Dusty.
I mean, to think of, a lot of these highlights that we're showing right now are the same highlights of games where Tim Day was starring and shining as well. And that's the amazing thing about this run of tight ends, where we got a lot of guys that are overlapping here. And that is exceptional to think of how good these positions were when you have two guys at the same time with such vastly different skill sets. We were talking about the difference between Wilcox and Blake Spence. Well, there was a massive difference between, Dante Rosario and guys like Tim Day. And you sit there and you think about the ideas of you can use Dante in a variety, Swiss Army knife type guy, as opposed to a big body, physical, jump ball tight end. And my goodness, the Oregon offense being so creative. There's a reason why a lot of those offensive skill position guys wanted to play for the Ducks. It's because it was a sexy offense where you could use a guy in a lot of different ways in those early 2000s, Jerry.
Yeah, Dusty, what you don't remember about him is that he was a special teams star. He won the Gordon Wilson Award for special teams in 2006. That he was a guy that you had to get on the field somehow. You just could not have him not be on the field, either offensively somewhere, H-back, wide receiver, almost like a tight end, fullback, blocking back, and running back, or special teams. He just shined. It's interesting, in the NFL, he caught the game winner against the Chargers when he was at Carolina, at the time considered one of the most memorable catches in Carolina history. That's the kind of all-star he really was. And again, an in-state kid, Joey.
94 career receptions. That's third all-time on the tight end record list. Pretty impressive, especially as you guys mentioned, for a guy who, there's another pretty darn good tight end that he played with there for a few years. All right, Terry Johns, who's next?
Let's go to the Wayback Machine as we. By the way, I don't know that any of us have mentioned this. 10 tight ends have been drafted to the NFL out of Oregon. That's a pretty good number. And here's another one going back to my era. Number 16 pick for the New England Patriots, 1975, Russ Francis. And he only played 14 games in a Duck uniform. And really, you look at his numbers, you're going to go, whatever. But what he did in the pros obviously was amazing. In fact, I saw something Monday Night Football back when Howard Cosell was still around, and he was the all-world tight end, is what he called him. Was Russ Francis. But he played with some 3-time Pro Bowler at New England, ended up retiring at 27. He was a free spirit, by the way. Jerry and I both know him. We've talked about him, but a free spirit, and he retired. And then Bill Walsh talked him into coming back to football, goes to the 49ers, and with another Duck we were talking about last week, Dante Rosario, 1984, wins a Super Bowl as a tight end. He had like 5 or 6 catches in the Super Bowl game. By the way, he was a javelin thrower and had for like 20 years in high school, had the highest national record, like 260 feet throwing the javelin. Yeah, it was just amazing. But he got drafted by the Kansas City Royals in baseball. I played baseball. The Ducks used to have summer team, and I played baseball with him. And I could tell you a few stories. They were very fun. He was a fun-loving guy. He could probably throw about 95 miles an hour, had a great curveball. He just had no clue where it was going, which kept the batters on their toes. I can tell you that. But, He, just one of those freaks. Just his dad was a wrestler, pro wrestler, a gentleman, Ed Francis, and was a promoter around this area. Is how he kind of got around here and went out. He's from Hawaii, but came out of Pleasant Hill High School. But he's if you got to go back and then find some video of him, mainly in the pros. I couldn't find anything from Oregon, but he was amazing. 1975.
And when you say he's a very good pitcher, but then his curveball was dicey, it makes me a little scared about how good of a pitcher he was. But
probably
this is
90 mile an hour curveball.
This is a guy that think
like
about it.
Sorry.
We got a guy in the prime of his career just sitting there, is like, I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm stepping away from the game. And he did the Jason Witten thing where he was a TV guy, and then Bill Walsh gets him out. And unlike Jason Witten, he won a Super Bowl in 1984. And that is a guy that you sit there and you go, I don't think people really understand how hard it is to step away from a game and then jump right back in and be serviceable as a professional in the NFL. And he was able to do it at a really high level. He was a special athlete, Jerry.
No, there's no doubt about it. And I watched him. I loved watching him. But I got to work with him in broadcasting. He was a funny man. He liked himself. And he liked to talk, and we had some good times on the radio. And Joey, look at the time. We need to get a break in.
Russ Francis. He was definitely going to be, no doubt, my Pro Duck highlight of the week, always brought to you by Toyota. Guys, 40 touchdowns. Impressive, especially in that era, playing the way that he did. 40 touchdowns in the NFL. Russ Francis, our Pro Duck highlight, brought to you by Toyota. Today's the day to contact your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. Jerry's right. Look at the time. We didn't get to Georgie. Guess we'll just have to get to Georgie when we get back. We're talking great Ducks, all the tight ends, the best ever to wear the Oregon uniform. More coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports-watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
You're listening to Great Ducks on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing.
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, Joey Mack here with you talking great Ducks, the tight end position. Jerry Allen, who's our next? Actually, never mind. We can wait for Jerry and Georgie. Dusty, who's our next great Duck at the tight end spot?
I'm going to go with Pharaoh Brown. I mean, this is a guy that 70 catches, 1,011 yards in his career at the University of Oregon. And I think everybody that is outside of the Oregon program may think of Pharaoh Brown and think of that injury in 2014 against Utah. But they forget that before that, he was a game changer in the receiving game. And he had 70 catches for 1,000 yards. 400 of those came after that gruesome leg injury. And I think that is the part that is I love the most about Pharaoh Brown is he sat out 2015, he comes back in 2016, and just to even play is one thing. But the one game that I vividly remember is it was late in that 2016 season, and it was at Arizona State, and he opened the game up with the 75-yard touchdown or something. And it was just like one of those moments where you go, that is finally the payoff for all that hard work. He was an incredible athlete.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I loved about, since Jerry's not going to talk, I will. What I loved about Pharaoh Brown is just his ability to be able to make play after play after play. There was one of the highlights there that I talked to these guys about. Miles Jack was a linebacker for UCLA, and everybody talked about Miles Jack. And by the way, you're watching that run that Dusty talked about against Arizona State. But Miles Jack was a tremendous two-way athlete, playing running back, playing the linebacker position. And I can remember Marcus Mariota finding him on the outside. He lined up at the wide receiver position one-on-one and beat him badly for a touchdown. And again, that monster game that he had at Utah, despite the injury, was in one of the most hardest-fought, hardest-hitting games I think I've ever seen. Pharaoh Brown, other than that injury, and it's too bad it happened, was a star player, a tremendous player at Oregon. And, Jerry, I think, again, we're going to remember certain parts of him, but man, oh man, big, tall target that was just was one of those ones you didn't want to have to cover if you're a DB.
Well, what I remember the most about, Pharaoh Brown. Wish you could have seen him play 4 years. I mean, he's 6'6", 245. Just watch him. He had wide receiver speed, and I'll never forget when he came back off that injury because we didn't think we'd ever see him in a football uniform again. I mean, Georgie, you remember that injury? It was career-ending, but not for Pharaoh Brown. He missed the last 5 games of that 2014 season, sat out a year, and we thought that was it. But he came back. He was special. When you have that kind of an injury and then you put up the kind of numbers you did after that kind of an injury, that's a special guy, Terry. I'll never forget Pharaoh Brown.
Yeah, as Dusty mentioned, came back after a year off, 9 games, 33 catches, 426 yards, 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's just incredible. And then to go and make an NFL roster, that was incredible. I mean, his hometown of Cleveland and made the Browns. Stuck there and then was with the Raiders and then I think back with the Browns. I'm not sure he's with anybody right now, but I got a chance to interview Pharaoh quite a few times, did a show with him once as well. And I know a lot of people thought he had a chip on his shoulder, but he was really I think a little bit misunderstood. And after you got to know him, just a really good young man that's just working hard, had a dream. And, he got there. You got to wear an NFL uniform and hopefully he gets another chance.
I got to jump in, too. I'm going to jump in real quick. Here's the kind of athlete he was. In basketball, as a junior, he averaged 16 points, 14 rebounds. As a senior, 17 points, 11 rebounds. He was an athlete. All right? Joey?
Yep.
I just loved his outlook, too. I mean, guys, I remember talking with him and just the way that he approached everything after what happened to him was really just kind of inspirational, to be honest. He just had such a good outlook on everything. Well, guys, I got to get another quick timeout. When we come back, a lot of other guys to run through. We'll do it quickly. Talking great Ducks at the tight end position. We're back inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
What's it like to grow with the O? At OCCU, we support Duck fans each step of the way by educating our youth with Lucky Duck Savings, celebrating independence with Duck Debit Checking, and rewarding members with the Duck Credit Card. That's how Duck fans grow with OCCU. Learn how you can too at myoccu.org/ducks.
Make a trip to the epicenter of Oregon wine country and visit Elizabeth Chambers Cellar. Our wines are crafted authentically in an old-world style in one of McMinnville's most historic working wineries. Let our staff lead you through a tasting of highly rated wines. Our newly renovated tasting room is chic and urban. It's no wonder people are talking about Elizabeth Chambers Cellar, now offering private seated tastings. Call us to find out more information or to make your reservation today. Elizabeth Chambers Cellar is open daily from 11 to 5. Find us online at ElizabethChambersCellar.com.
More Great Ducks talk comes after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, talking Great Ducks at the tight end position. And before we get to some of the past guys, Jerry, I do want to ask you about some of the guys that are on the roster now, because it's time for our Pepsi Player Spotlight. I'll tell you guys, one guy that I'm really excited to see is Cam McCormick. What a cool story. I mean, you talk about a guy who's been able to work his way back and come back, Jerry. Just a couple quick thoughts on Cam McCormick, and a guy who's really been around this Oregon football program a long time. And boy, we're excited to see what he can do out there this season.
You know what's exciting about Cam McCormick is that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we or somebody is going to be talking about an all-star in Cam McCormick. He's one of those prototypical NFL guys. He's big, he's strong, and he's got the speed. He's got great hands. I mean, I think he's going to be a very, very important part of Oregon's success offensively this year. So the future is, I wish we could come back in 10 years and say, remember Cam McCormick and everything he did coming off that injury? Georgie, he's a specimen. He really is.
Well, and Jerry, the courage and the hard work that he's had to put in to just get himself back into position to contribute again. And that's the thing about it. It's been, I'm sure, frustrating for him at times. And yet to maybe see some light at the end of the tunnel and get his opportunity. And, Joey, I sit there and I look at it and I think, I just hope that he gets that great opportunity this season to complete that recovery.
Me too. And I hope that we'll be able to talk with him on a coach's show. Maybe we'll have him twice for our Pepsi Player Spotlight. Always brought to you by Pepsi, locally owned Bigfoot Beverages. Go Ducks. Drink Pepsi. All right, guys, we're running out of time. We could highlight so many different guys. Jerry, your next pick for our tight end to feature.
Well, I'm going to go very quickly with David Paulson. He's kind of a recent guy, but David Paulson is such a gentleman. When you talk to David Paulson, you don't get an idea or a sense that he is a tough NFL-style football player. Career 7th on the list of receptions, receiving yards, 9th, fifth on career, actually. NFL drafted in the 7th round of Pittsburgh, played a couple of years. He was a great blocker. I remember that about him at average speed, but when you needed a first down or a touchdown in the red zone, he was your guy right there. Georgie, you can count on him.
You just took the words right out of my mouth, Jerry. I think he was the most underrated blocker of all the tight ends that we've talked about here today. Great hands, a great target for Darren Thomas and company to be able to throw to. But more than that, the most underrated blocker I've ever seen, and a quiet, unassuming, tremendous player. And Terry, great guy to talk to, too, because he was almost too nice, and yet put that helmet on, he was a different guy.
Yeah, and I think he interned in the OSN office at one point, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Jerry, I'm not sure if you mentioned, but he wasn't the fastest guy, wasn't big enough for like NFL tight end. Yet he played at a very high level at Oregon, and then goes and plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 2 or 3 years or whatever it was. But yeah, had great hands. Yeah, look at that catch, jeez, just down low, and this goes down and gets it. But yeah, great guy to talk to. Very unassuming guy, just goes out and just loved to play football and was very good at it, Dusty.
Yeah, I just remember the Civil War performance where he had 105 yards and a touchdown. I mean, it was one of those days where, you sat there and the tight end popped that day for the Oregon Ducks, and it was a very special performance for him and a special day for the Ducks in that Civil War. But Jerry, I just got to say, I mean, calling him the gentleman, I mean, what a nickname you can give a guy there. I mean, is that what they called you back in your college days, too? Is that your nickname?
I'm not sure gentleman fit, Dusty, but I tell you, we had David Paulson up at an event in Portland last year, and he's as soft-spoken and as much of a gentleman as he was when he played football. But get on the field between the lines, and Joey, get out of his way.
That's right. Well, guys, we've got less than a minute left. We didn't get to everybody that we wanted to today. I'll just shout out Jacob Breland, George Reisner, Jeff Thomason, Willie Tate, Jed Weaver, a few others that we had mentioned, Johnny Munt with his NFL time, Chuck Bradley. We had a lot of different guys, and that's the hard part with this show. It's tough to fit them all in an hour. And, guys, next week it's going to be even tougher because we're talking safeties and linebackers. So, it's going to be tough to fit everybody into an hour. So, Jerry Allen, Mike Jorgensen, Terry Johns, Dusty Herrera, Scott Labounty, Scott Phillips, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Mitchell Lee back in the radio studio. We'll do this again next week. I'm Joey Mack saying so long in the Country Financial Studio.
Steven.
Who said that?
Me, down here.
Ugh, what are you, a yellow booger?
I'm a banana slug, Steven.
What are you doing in my room?
I'm your sense of adventure. It's been a long time since we've had an adventure in the forest.
Mom took me to the forest last year.
I'm a slug, Steven. It took me a long time to get here.
You're right. I should get out.
Yeah, the forest is not that far away.
Hey, Mom!
Come to the forest where the more adventurous you lives. Check out discovertheforest.org for cool places nearby. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
It's important to buckle up your kids.
I know.
Sometimes car seats can be complicated.
I know.
And if your child's in the wrong seat and you get into a crash,
I know.
It could lead to a serious injury.
I know.
So you're 100% sure you have the right car seat for your child's age and size?
I don't know.
Don't think you know. Know you know. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Make sure you have the right car seat.